I also want to hear from you all on the response you got from friends and family. And so I'd like to tap into the community, educating children, specifically our children, and considering the fire service as a career. But so you go home, you tell, the people, you tell your network, guess who's a firefighter, and what happens? I mean, what's the response there?
I get from older people in the community, but baby, you don't go in the fire.
I can hear that.
Right? You don't go in. And you're like, yes, ma'am, I do. I go inside. And they're like, ooh, no. A little bit of that.
Anybody else?
My family, I said, I'm gonna apply to fire departments, and my family was like, I'm sorry, Tamara, what? You want to do what? No, you want to go into the hospital. And I was like, no, I'm going to be a firefighter. And they're like, oh, right, okay. So what happened is you're a medic, and you're going to be waiting outside for them to bring the victim out. And that's how you're going to be part of the fire department. And I was like, no, I'm going to be helping them and then help pull the victim out. And that's going to be my role. And they're like, I'm not so sure about that. Yeah, so that was, but then when I started getting interviews and kept going in there, I was like, you're going to have to get on board because this is happening. And they're like, all right. So that was their reaction.
How about for you, when you tell the family you're leaving this desk job that's, I imagine, is secure, you're several years in.
Yeah.
What was that like?
I gotta tell you, my mom was a devout Catholic, so she'd be like, ay, Dios mío, you're gonna do what, And she wanted me to be a doctor, So when I started college, I was studying organic chemistry, and that did it for me. And I shifted very quickly to psychology, I grew up in Harlem. I grew up in an apartment, spending 6.5 years in college. I'm hearing from firefighters that this is a great career with great benefits where you can work out, right? You can travel. You're doing 10 days a month, on the line, and then you can be off for 20 days. And it pays well. And so I'm thinking, that's the direction I want to go. Initially, they were kind of shocked. The other thing that I would be so excited when I'd come home and share stories about incidents that I went on, that I had to learn very quickly because of the reaction and the look on their face that you can't tell them everything that you're doing, right? Because the average person doesn't understand what we're exposed to, and so all you're doing is exposing them to something they shouldn't be. And so I had to very quickly shift that. But my parents, I think that once, because my dad was intimately knowledgeable about what I was doing on a day-to-day basis, they couldn't have been more proud. When I graduated from the academy, they were both here to pin my badge. My mom in particular, I lost her 3 months ago, but she was there when I was promoted to fire chief. But at first, initially, it was a little bit of a shock, like, you're supposed to be a doctor. Are you still gonna go and get your PhD? And I'm like, yeah, maybe, but I kind of like what I'm doing now. Being able to buy a home, and, my mom lived with me. My dad got to spend some time in the house. Like, that was huge for them because they came here from Puerto Rico. At best, they graduated from high school, they were blue collar also, and they just wanted us to go to school and do something for ourselves. And so, the fire service has been very good to me, which is why I've always been committed to giving back and to helping diversify the fire service and to talking to women and people of color, because it's important for us to reflect the community that we serve. So that's kind of been my drive.
You had said something earlier about our community specifically, learning how to better support us in this journey, Black women, Black men, in the pursuit of becoming a firefighter. Also about, educating the next generation on seriously considering this profession. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
I've just found that as a community, we don't tell our children this is a job for them. We tell them they can be basketball players and NFL players, and they can play soccer and they can play baseball. And we will spend tens of thousands of dollars on club teams and, all these things, when the percentage of them actually becoming a professional athlete is minimal. It's like 1% or something like that. But this is a really great job where all of those team building skills, they can pour it into this job and provide for their families, provide to have this really wonderful career, fulfilling career where you can buy a home and take care of your parents, that you can do amazing, amazing things that, you know, you never dreamed you could do. And you get brought into this family and this support system that some people don't always have growing up. But we aren't reaching back and telling them, especially in communities of color, that this is an avenue, whether it's anything in public safety, police, fire, EMS. We don't tell our kids as small children, this is your path, this is something you can do. And I think that as a community, we really need to be pushing that as much as we push you can be the President of the United States, or as much as we push that you can be the next LeBron James. If your parents aren't over 5'8", the chance that you're really gonna be the next LeBron James is probably not gonna happen. But you can be a battalion chief, and you can be a firefighter, and you can be a hazmat specialist, and you can have just as much of a fulfilled life. And I think that that's kind of been my focus, is bringing it to our children. I recently had a fire in a high school bathroom, and I had the full football team out in front of the high school. And I do a lot of the social media for our local. And so I went out to the group, the fire's out, and I went out to all the kids, the high school kids that are standing out in the street. And I knew somebody had video. And so I was like, hey, who's got video? Who's got video? And they were like, we all do, because of course, they've been filming the whole thing. It's been on TikTok this whole time. And I started talking, I said, hey, you know, I got a whole football team here. Has anyone ever thought about being a firefighter? And they were like, what? And they were like, yeah. And these are, you know, it's a high school in a Samoan community. These are big dudes. And I was like, I would love for you guys to apply. You know, can I come back here? Can I talk to you about it? And they were like, yeah. And they were so interested, and they couldn't believe that was something that was available to them. And funny, not funny side note, but it does speak to our communities, was a young man who was like, well, I've been in some trouble. I've gotten caught. He had a little bit of a record. And I was like, well, how old? He's in high school, right? So I go, well, that's gonna get expunged. But what I need you to do is stop doing that. Stop doing that, because I can give you something so much better. And he was like, really? You know, he was like, I go, yeah, plus I can't have you robbing that Target. I go to that Target. You know, like, we made it funny and we laughed about it, but it was really like, here, let me show you something else you can do. That's a quick fix. I can give you a whole package, a whole career. And I don't think that right now, as communities, we're doing the work that we need to do for our children, to let them know that there's so much more than the quick fix. There's so much more than being just a rapper. You can do this and do music. You can do this and do so many other things, especially with this schedule. And you can get outside of your community to see the world, which is definitely a bonus. It's you know, traveling the world, you get to see. So there's so much more than just the very small part of San Francisco or our communities. Oakland is the same. Some of these kids never get out of these communities. San Francisco calls it overseas. I don't go overseas. I hadn't been to Oakland until I was 19. I had never left the city. It's such a, you know, you don't leave. I'm sure Harlem is, Brooklyn is like that. You know, there's a lot of communities where you just don't go out. And so showing them that there's something else is really our responsibility now to give back.